All right. Well, I want to thank you all for taking some time out of your schedule to join me this evening. I'm Dr. Barlow, Dean of the Graduate School, and I want to just take a little bit of your time. We won't take very much, but I do want to go through some of the basics around probation to make sure that everybody understands the policies and so forth, because we want to make sure you're on your path to getting off probation. And so let me get this presentation started. So in terms of my goals this evening, I think I have three. One is I want you to be able to differentiate between your cumulative graduate GPA and your program GPA, and that's going to be important in terms of the policy. The second goal is to understand the probation policy, and this actually we changed 2 years ago, so it's still fairly new, and I just want to make sure everybody understands what's going on with that. And then my third goal will be to identify some supports that we have in place to support your success. Before I jump into those goals though, I do want to say that like I typed probation in and into a web browser and looked at the different images that came up. And typically it's painted in a very negative way. That's not how we view probation at UCA and the graduate school. So we see probation as just a moment to pause and say, okay, something's not quite right. What can we do differently to support the student, get the student back on the path towards graduating? Because ultimately that's what we want to do, is see you cross that stage. So I do want to just say that out loud, that probation is not necessarily a bad thing. It is a moment to pause and reflect on the progress we're making and think about how we might do differently so that we can be successful. So with that said, I'll jump into my first goal, which was talking about the two different graduate GPAs. So in terms of being able to graduate, our policies have always been that you have to have a 3.0 cumulative graduate GPA as well as a 3.0 program GPA. And so if you're in your first program, graduate program at UCA, and you haven't taken any extra classes, then those two GPAs will be the same. However, if you're in maybe a second graduate degree, or if for some reason you've taken extra classes, then your two GPAs are not necessarily going to be the same. So what happens is, let's say you're, and I'm using my pointer, so I hope you can see it, with your current program GPA, maybe, you know, there's like 10 classes maybe that you're supposed to take for that, but the cumulative might have 15 classes in there. So this current program GPA is a subset of the larger cumulative graduate GPA. So in terms of like knowing where your two GPAs are, what you should do is take a look at DegreeWorks. If you haven't gone into DegreeWorks, I encourage you to do so as soon as possible. Like, there's so many reasons to look at DegreeWorks. Relative to tonight is knowing those different GPAs. So you access DegreeWorks by going to My UCA. You can click on roles and select student roles, or you can do a search to find the little button that's for DegreeWorks for students. You click on that and it's going to come up. Your degree audit will show. If you received your undergraduate degree at UCA, then when you first open it, it will show that. For some reason, the default is to show your undergraduate degree, but you can click right up here where it says degree, select the degree you're currently in, and it will repopulate the information. When you're in DegreeWorks, there's so much more that you'll see, like all the classes can be listed and so forth. I just want to key in on the GPA information right now. So this is a student, was a student, they've since graduated. And you can see right here, it says under the degree, their GPA is a 3.666. You can see right above the GPA that there are 54 credits that have been counted in that GPA. Down here under the major, you can see it's the same GPA and it's the same number of credit hours, 54. So that tells me this student is in their first graduate degree at UCA, and they have not taken any extra classes because those two numbers match. The other thing I'll point out is right up here under academic standing, it says good standing. So right now, if you log into your DegreeWorks and look at your audit, yours should say that you're on probation. And then once you are off of probation, it will go back to good standing. An example of one where we can see the two GPAs are different. So this is a student right down here under degree. You can see that they have a 3.0 and they have 36 credits that have been applied to calculate that GPA. Whereas right below that, the GPA is a 3.125. And only 30 credits have been used to calculate that GPA. So that tells me that this student is, just based on their numbers, they're in their first program, graduate program at UCA, but for some reason they have taken 6 extra credit hours of classes. And in fact, because that overall GPA is a little bit lower, they have done worse in those extra classes, and that's pulled their grade down. You don't see it on this one. This student is in good standing because they've got at least the 3.0 in both spaces. But we have had students where their major GPA was fine, but then they took an extra class and maybe made an F in it, and now that's pulled their overall GPA down, and now they're on probation. And so that's one reason that in general, I advise students don't take classes that are not on your degree plan. But specifically when you're on probation, you're not allowed to take classes that are not on your degree plan. So anyway, this is how you look up your 2 degrees, and you, not 2 degrees, your 2 GPAs, and you want to make sure that they are above a 3.0 in order to be in good standing, to move forward with your program and graduate. So the actual policy around probation is that if you're expected to have that cumulative graduate GPA and program GPA at a 3.0 or above, and if either one of those or both are not at a 3.0, then you're on probation. And like I said earlier, and you see it here at the bottom, probation serves to alert the students of potential problems. The number of hours that you can take while you're on probation will depend. Some of you are in perhaps what we call a cohort program. And a cohort program is where a program takes in students like once a year. You're in a group. That group takes the same classes together. What they're going to take the next semester is determined already by the design of the program, and they march along together through the program. And there's no deviation. They don't give you the choice of what to take. They're telling you, you take these classes with your whole group. That's a cohort program. A non-cohort program is going to be one that you get the choice. Like you might be asked, do you want to take 3 hours of classes or 6 hours of classes? What do you want to take? So there's a lot more freedom and flexibility in those non-cohort programs, and they take in students almost like every semester. So you have to know whether you're in a cohort program or a non-cohort program. The cohort programs, and you see my little asterisk there, a lot of times those cohort programs, they have higher GPA expectations than what we have with our probation policy. So if you're in a cohort program, you probably want to take a look at those guidelines to know whether you are going to be held to higher expectations. I'm describing the graduate school's expectations, and so here I go. So the question is, if you're on probation, how many hours can you take while you're on probation? So for cohort students, so if you're thinking about those descriptions I gave and you say, oh, I'm in a cohort, then you're allowed 1 additional semester. So whether that semester is 9 hours or 12 hours or whatever, it's already set up in your program. So whatever they say you're supposed to take, that's how many hours you get, and it's 1 semester. If you're in a non-cohort program, so you're a non-cohort student, then you're allowed 9 additional hours of courses to complete, to get your GPA up, and all of those have to be in the degree program. All right, so for example, cohort, however many hours you took this semester, so I've got X hours, you find yourself on probation. You get 1 semester to get yourself off probation, however many hours they tell you you're supposed to take based on your cohort plan. At the end of that semester, you must be off of probation. This will look different if you're in a non-cohort program. So several examples to show here. this is the semester, you took however many hours, and you find yourself on probation. You can take all 9 hours in one semester if that's what you would like to do. And then at the end of those 9 hours, you need to be off of probation. If you're like a full-time student, that's probably what you would do. If you're a graduate assistant, that's what you'd have to do because you're required. If you're a full graduate assistant, then you would have to do that because you're expected to take 9 hours. Otherwise, you don't have to. So we have lots of students who will, oh gosh, I've got the rainbow wheel of death again. There it is. So you find yourself off probation. You could take 6 hours one semester, 3 hours the next, and then at the end of that, you should be off of probation. Alternatively, you could take 3 and then 6 and be off probation. You could even do 3, 3, and 3 if that's what you want to do. That's fine. However, what you cannot do is do 6 and then 6, because then you've gone over the 9 hours that you're allowed to take while you're on probation. In terms of the policy, so coming back to the policy, at the end of the probationary period, so we look at your grades, and either one of two things will happen. Either your cumulative GPA and your program GPA will be at a 3.0 or higher. And if that's so, we'll change your standing to be in good standing and you're set. Otherwise, oh, I've got an example to show you. What we started doing is in your letter that you received related to your probation, that second paragraph is the one that tells you exactly what you need to do to make sure your GPA is above a 3.0. So you can see from this student's letter, they were told that, within the 9 hours that you have, they needed to make at least one A, a 3-hour A, and then nothing below a B. And if they did that, then they would be off of probation. So you should look at your letter to know exactly what is expected of you so that you can get off of probation. If you don't meet those expectations and either your cumulative or your program GPA is still less than 3.0 at the end of your probationary period, then you're suspended from graduate study at UCA. Students who are suspended the first time, if you're suspended and it's your first time, you do have the option to appeal that suspension. And we have had students successfully appeal, and it really depends on how much your GPA improved and whether an additional, an extended probationary period will be enough to get your grades up. So appealing the suspension is a possibility. It's not a guarantee, but I do want you to be aware of that. So now I'm going to switch gears for a moment and talk just a moment about academic supports. So our first support, and I just wrote it on here, is Navigate. And I don't know if you all are familiar with Navigate, but that is a system that the university put in place last year for undergraduate students. So if you were a UCA undergraduate a year ago, you may be somewhat familiar with Navigate. This year is the first year that we're implementing it with graduate students. And so I'm really not, I don't have like screenshots of things to show you or anything because we haven't actually gotten started yet. But one of the things that I know we're going to do is for our students who are on probation, we will probably send out messages to your professors and ask them to give us an update on your grades so that we can monitor your progress. We will open up Navigate as an option for those faculty members. If they see something that they're concerned about, they can alert you and alert us. So it's just going to be a really nice way for us to communicate and keep up with one another and make sure that you're making progress in your classes. And again, once we've done this for a semester, I'll be able to give better information. But for right now, I'm just going to say Navigate and know that that will be something that you'll learn more about as the semester progresses. Other academic supports. One thing I want to do is encourage you to communicate with your advisor and your instructors. Oftentimes students will ask me, are there tutors available for different classes and things like that? And the thing is, like at the graduate level, the university itself doesn't have tutors available. They mostly have tutors at the freshman, sophomore level, but you can talk to your advisor or your instructor and they can guide you towards whatever supports are in place that are specific to to that program, or they're specific to that class. Your advisor and instructors can also give you helpful information about how to keep up, what might be some extra resources and so forth. And they're here because they want to see you succeed. So please talk to your faculty members. Another support that we have for you is the Center for Writing and Communication. So if you find yourself in a program or in a class where you're writing papers and things, or you're giving presentations, that know that this is a resource. They have virtual meeting hours, and so you can schedule to talk to someone virtually, or you can walk into the center and look for help there. But definitely they are a resource for supporting you and with those particular assignments and expectations. As I said earlier, the DegreeWorks audit is an academic support. It is a place where you can look and see what your courses are that you're expected to take and your grades so far. So know that that is there for you. And then also the library. So the library has research coaches, and they are there very eager to work with students. So if you find yourself having to write a paper or having to access resources from the library and you're not sure of how to get started, or maybe you've done it 1,000 times, but this is a new topic and you're just not familiar with it, there are people at the library that really want to help you. So reach out and ask for help from the research coaches. And then the last thing I wrote on here is the Office of Student Success. And here's the thing, I know that the Office of Student Success really gears all of their programming and things to undergraduates. But if you can just set that aside, they have a lot of really great ideas and really nice resources. So know that they are as a resource for you. You can access their website, see what they've got going on. Sometimes they have workshops that would be helpful, but then also they have information on their website. In addition to academic supports, you should also think about your well-being, because that plays a role in your success as a student. One resource that we have is John Scott. So I hope that you are familiar with John Scott. We have had him in our new student orientations and so forth. And I've interviewed and talked with him on my podcast several times. But his job is to support graduate students. And so if you feel like you've got some questions that you don't know the answer to, or don't even know who to ask, you can reach out to John Scott, and he'll get you those answers. If you want to talk to somebody, maybe you don't feel comfortable yet going to the counseling center, but you would like to talk to somebody, John Scott is a person, he's a licensed counselor, so you can always reach out to him, and he can point you in the direction of resources to help you. John Scott is a resource for all graduate students, so please take advantage of him. The Counseling Center is available for you. So if you find yourself wanting to talk with someone, know that they are there. You can set appointments with them. And mental health is something that we should all be talking about, and we should all be working to focus on improving our mental health. So we want to normalize this idea that it's okay and it's normal to go and talk with people. So the Counseling Center is a place where you can seek help as well. And then well-being, the hyper, like exercising, is an important part of supporting your overall well-being. So know that the hyper is a place where you can go and exercise. And that's another resource that we have for you. And so here I am with my summary. So there are my 3 points. The other thing I'll say is that, if you have questions at any time, you're always welcome to reach out to me. I have my email right there for you. If you haven't already followed us on social media, I encourage you to do so. We will be, we try to share information that's useful for graduate students in general, and sometimes specific for our graduate school students, such as deadlines and things. Also, if you are a podcast type of listener, my podcast, Grad Chats with Dr. B, we do podcasts on a variety of different topics that are useful and helpful for graduate students. Upcoming this semester, we will have a 3 podcast series that focuses on writing at the graduate level. And I interviewed 3 different faculty members from different programs to get insights into how to support graduate students with their writing. We're going to have one that focuses on neurodiversity in graduate education. And it seems like there's another one. oh, we're going to do one on fees and like how to get the most out of the fees that you are paying. We also have previous seasons that we've completed, and they are all filled with information. Sometimes I'm talking with graduate students in those, sometimes with faculty, but I encourage you to take a listen. If you're a podcast listener, it's available on Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify. So pretty much anywhere you're listening to podcasts, you should be able to find me. So with that, that is, the end of the information that I intended to share. And so if you have questions, you can use the Q&A feature to type in a question. And while I'm waiting for someone to see if y'all have any questions, I will say that at some point you may find yourself needing to register, for example, and you'll see that you have a probation hold. And if that's the case, then you just need to reach out to Leslie George in my office. And what she can do is temporarily lift that hold. She'll give you like a 48-hour window so that you can register, and then she'll place the hold back on your account. So just know that your probation doesn't stop you from registering for the next semester. Another thing I'm asked often is about how you get off of probation. And so at the end of each semester, Leslie goes in and she evaluates all of the people that are on probation. And as soon as she sees that you have the GPA of a 3.0 or better, she will change your academic standing. So again, that's Leslie George. That's part of her role in the graduate school to take care of that. So we do that in between semesters. And those are probably the two questions that I get most often. So I'll pause for just a second and see if I have any other questions that may be popping up. Oh, here's a good question. So the question is, if what happens if you don't have enough program credits left to get back to the 3.0 in the program GPA? So it does happen sometimes that towards the end of the program, a student may, maybe they've made B's all along the way, and then they're in their last set of classes and maybe they get a C and that pulls them down. So they don't really have any more classes left to take. They've taken all of them, but they don't have the 3.0. So our policies allow you to take up to an extra 6 hours of classes, not 6 classes, but 6 hours of coursework, for the sole purpose of increasing your GPA to be able to graduate. So a student would then be told, okay, you have 6 extra hours to work with. So we look at that, and sometimes it could be that the person just only needs to take one more 3-hour class, and we'll tell them that you need 1 3-hour class, it needs to be an A. Or we'll tell them you need 2 3-hour classes and you need A's in both of those. If it happens that a student can't get that 3.0 within those 6 extra classes, then that's just it, they're done. So that's a situation that we want to avoid. And that's partly why we're having these conversations now about the probation policy, so that you can go into this very much aware of what's going on. So again, it is possible that a person can take all of the classes in their program and 6 extra hours to get their GPA up. And if they don't have a 3.0, then they don't earn the degree. I don't want to see anybody in that setting. So that's, again, why we want to tackle this up front and make sure that doesn't happen. But it is possible. Very good question. Thank you for asking that. Are there any other questions that I can answer at this time? Okay. This is what's awkward about a webinar. I can't see you all. So I don't know if anyone has any questions. So I'll just say, you've got my email there on the screen. So after I shut the webinar down tonight, if you have questions afterwards, know that you can email me and I'll get you the answers that you're looking for. Also know that Leslie George in our office is the person, and I should have put her information on here. I don't know why I didn't. But she's the person in our office that handles probation. So if you have any questions, whether it's about the hold, registering, etc., then she's the person that can answer your questions. Okay, let's see. We have a new question. So we know. Yes. So at the end of this session, when I close it down, I get a report from Zoom that shows me who was here and how long they were on the call and so forth. So we will know who has attended for sure. and then I've got a thank you. So I appreciate you all. Let me know if there's anything I can do for y'all in the future. Otherwise, just get in there and do your best work. And I know that you'll be off probation very soon. Y'all have a good evening. Okay.